Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. This is my second open forum, and it's wonderful to see so many people taking an interest, not just in Angelina, but also in the issues. So it's great to be here. Angelina rightly points out that there's some governments like the United States that still are not comfortable even ratifying the major human rights treaties that are out there. But in terms of, are things getting better or worse, it really has been true that over the last 4 years, there's been a significant step back in respect for human rights, even on the part of governments that traditionally promoted human rights, governments like the United States and even some of the governments of Europe. Now, the context for this we're all aware of. It's the fight against terrorism. And I don't want to diminish the importance of terrorism because deliberately attacking civilians is an affront to everything that the human rights movement stands for. It's horrible, and it needs to be stopped. But it should not be an excuse for violating the same values, the same laws that explain what's wrong with terrorism. It's important to maintain the moral high ground in fighting terrorism. But the U.S. government, in particular, has lost that moral high ground. It has been using torture. It has been detaining people in secret detention facilities. It's been disappearing people. I fear that is not only wrong, but it is counterproductive. And it's a problem that increasingly Europe is encountering as well. Excuse me. Because, for example, a Swiss man by the name of Dick Marty has been assigned by the Council of Europe with the task of uncovering whether secret detention facilities were maintained in Eastern Europe. We know that they were. It's up to the governments of Europe to come forth with that evidence, not to depend on some Swiss man to try to get into the deep darks of European intelligence agencies. So we all have work to do here.
Thank you, Kenneth. Another question to lead on. The United States sees itself as the world's policeman. The United States sees itself in the role of the world's policeman. You are saying that the war on terrorism has led to the violation of human rights to a great extent. And does this mean that now the states feel free, other states feel free to also violate human rights?
Yes. Unfortunately, we're seeing a copycat effect around the world. I actually had an experience just last year here in Davos. I was meeting with the Prime Minister from Egypt. And there had just been a terrorist incident in Egypt. And the Egyptian government had rounded up a couple hundred suspects and started to torture them. And so I asked the Egyptian Prime Minister, what's going on? How can you possibly justify torture? And he said, well, what do you want? That's what the United States does. We're finding this over and over, where governments are using the conduct of the United States or Britain or of other countries that are willing to violate human rights in the name of fighting terrorism. They're using this as the new excuse to ignore human rights. And it's also a problem because, frankly, the voice of the United States or Britain or others as promoters of human rights has been compromised. U.S. diplomats today cannot, with a straight face, go to governments and say, don't torture, don't lock people up without trial, because those governments will turn around and say, well, what are you talking about? What about Guantanamo? What about the secret detention facilities in Europe? What about rendition, sending people to be tortured? What standing do you have to complain about these issues? So this is a problem, a very severe problem for the human rights movement, because abuses in the name of fighting terrorism are undermining the standards, and they're degrading the voices that traditionally had helped to promote those standards.
Thanks. Ich möchte mal auf dieses.
Let me turn to this side of the panel. You work in the field day by day, Dr. Noor in Afghanistan and Reinhard Fichtel in Nepal. You are now sitting here on this panel, Dr. Noor. You're on this panel here in Davos. You see there's a lot of press in this room. There's a great attention from the media. What do you expect, quite specifically, from a panel like this one? What would you like to tell us?
First, I am very happy that I am here to raise the issue that we have Afghan women has in our own country. The issue is that thousand mothers, pregnant women, women just giving birth, and their newborn, they don't have access to the health facility due to cultural limitation or extremely poverty, or like returnees, IDPs, internal displaced people, or because of lack of awareness that they don't know where they should go and where they should receive such facilities for their health. I'm coming here to raise this issue and ask for support that from all to support Afghan women that they are living extremely in very hard condition in our country.
Thank you. You have been in Afghanistan, Angelina Jolie. What did you see there? What did touch you there?
I spent most time in Pakistan on the border with Afghan refugees, but I'd actually love to ask. I mean, the experience I had certainly was a lot of very, very strong, amazing people surviving against unbelievable odds. So I commend you for your work. I'd like to ask you if you could tell us about the situation in Afghanistan now, because I think for many people, maybe back in the States, this is more relevant, but they feel that the situation in Afghanistan has stabilized in some way or is getting better, and I'd like to know your opinion on what it is like inside Afghanistan now. Do you feel it's getting better, more safe, or is it still very...
First, I'm a doctor, not politician, but only I see some improvement that right now the education exists for all the girls. This is for me is very extremely improvement. Schools and education available for the people in the country. But we have a cultural problem that, for example, the fathers and the men, they don't allow their daughters to go for education. And as well, we have for me is very important that after a long time we have selective government in the country. But besides, the people are disappointed that our parliament is more involved by the people who were warlord or who were destroyed their country. This is also not acceptable for the people, but I'm not sure how. As a leader in the parliament, this is the majority of the people, they don't like them. This is for me some improvement and some, for sure we have right now national army, national police, and but beside all this problem, the surface of the country seem very well, but we have very deep problem in the community level, and majority of extreme poverty as well exists in the country still.
And also problem with the security, right? I mean, we were having lunch together yesterday, and you told us all those really bad stories about kids who disappear. If you send them to school, they will never come back. You have absolutely no idea where they are. They're going to be sold.
I have 4 children, and I'm going to the job from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock. When they are in the school and they're going to the school, I never believe when I return back from my work, I first check my children that they are okay or not, they are in the house or not. Really, last year we had a lot of disappeared cases of children in the country.
And what is happening to them? Do you have any idea? They're going to be sold as prostitutes?
Yes, I think so, because nobody knows. The child just disappeared, and nobody knows what will be the future of them. But the majority of the people discussing that maybe their eyes or their organ will be sold in the market, or for sexual abuse or these things. Maybe this is the idea of the people, but I don't know exactly.
This brings me to you, Reinhard Fichtel. Sie sprechen...
You come from Bavaria and speak the Bavarian dialect very broadly. Perhaps you will speak in your dialect, and we may like that. Perhaps you could tell us something about the human rights and child rights in Nepal. What is the situation like in Nepal just now? We also have the feeling that there's going to be some explosion there. Well, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, for coming to Davos, for having invited me here. I've just come directly from Kathmandu. We have 180 people